Hello, very good evening to you. Welcome to ITV News. This is Friday night's calendar.
Hello, thanks for joining us. Here are tonight's main stories.
A Huddersfield woman's emotional trip back to the Isle of Man on the anniversary of the fire disaster that killed her mother. She's finally included in a book of remembrance.
People might say it's 51 years, it's time to move on. You can't move on from something like that fully because she never came home to us.
Leaking lock. Repairs to a faulty gate are to begin after boaters became stranded when the waterway ran dry.
I don't have another house. I don't have any other option, so this was where I had to sleep. The whole situation is completely unacceptable.
And I'm soaking up the sun at this beautiful flower garden just outside of York, finding out how it's celebrating its 25th anniversary.
But first tonight, a woman who survived a fire described as one of the worst since World War II says she felt some semblance of peace today after her mother was recognised in a memorial book.
The Summerland disaster saw 50 people die and 80 injured in a new leisure complex after it burned to the ground. It happened hundreds of miles away and 51 years ago on the Isle of Man. But the effects are still being felt over there.
Jackie Hallam was among a number of holidaymakers from our region on the island that day. The anniversary is being marked with a service on the island and she visited a nearby crematorium to see the book. Helen Steele reports.
A few simple words, written 51 years after her death. But for Jackie Hallam, having somewhere to grieve after losing her mother in a disaster decades ago means so much.
Deep within, it's really hard to move on. So it's comforting for me to see her name there and recognised here in the crematorium because she never came home to us.
It looks as if there's no hope for Summerland, without a shadow of a doubt.
Today is the anniversary of the Summerland disaster, when a fire tore through a new leisure complex on the Isle of Man, claiming the lives of 50 people. Among them, Jackie's mother Lorna and her best friend Jane, who was 13. For Jackie from Huddersfield, it's all the more important to see her mother's name because of what happened after the fire.
My grandma was asked to identify the charred remains of someone, and she identified someone who she thought must be my mum, and this person came to Huddersfield, and then it was discovered later that wasn't her. And I wanted to know what had happened to her final remains because her ashes never came back to us. It doesn't seem right that I don't even know where her ashes ended up. I don't think that's right.
As well as seeking answers to what happened to her mother's ashes, Jackie is also part of a justice campaign. An inquiry found Summerland was built in haste with flammable materials and was a death trap. Last year, victims received a long-awaited apology from officials on the island, but the inquest verdict into all 50 deaths still stands. It was recorded as misadventure, meaning those who entered took a risk. Soon, lawyers will put in a formal request for a fresh inquest.
That will be going in, so the authorities needn't think that this is going away. It is not going away, because I will fight for this until I'm no longer able to do so.
Helen Steele, ITV News.
Yes, a very determined lady there. Now, in other news, mosques across our region have held special prayers today, condemning the triple murder and ensuing riots and ensuing riots seen in Southport over the past week. Members of the Muslim community in Huddersfield were among those calling for unity, with dozens attending the Beit Samad Mosque to observe a televised speech and service. It comes as the Federation of Mosques in Sheffield called for peace after the incident in Merseyside led to an Islamophobic attack on a mosque in the town, prompting other religious sites to up their security.
We are worried because of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. There have been some incidents in our mosque as well. But I personally think we are getting the full support from our local police as well. We have to be united, and all the communities because none of the religions promotes hatred. They all promote peace and harmony, and Islam stands for peace, submission and obedience. And we have to show that we are a peaceful community, and we live in a country, is a peaceful country.
Next tonight, repairs to a leaking lock gate are to begin next week after boaters in Hebden Bridge became stranded when the canal ran dry.
A number of boats became marooned on a stretch of the Rochdale Canal when the faulty gate was left open, causing the water to drain away between the lock 7 and 8. Water levels are rising, but the Canal and River Trust says a full repair programme should start in days. Vicky Smith reports.
For people who have chosen a life on the water, for days they've instead found themselves stuck in the mud, with some temporary fixes slowly bringing the water level back up. Wendy's home only started floating again yesterday.
It's very stressful because all the time you're thinking about the damage to your boat. If you've ever tried making food or going to the bathroom or anything like that when you have to stand like that, it's very, very difficult. It's very uncomfortable. I didn't sleep properly for about 4 days. I don't have another house. I don't have any other option. So this was where I had to sleep.
Trevor has lived here for 12 years and says it's not the first time it's happened.
It's a very uncomfortable experience being grounded on a boat. My wife and I, neither of us are spring chickens anymore. And it's and what with arthritis and stuff, it makes it really difficult. But yeah, anyway, we cope.
And with the repairs that are happening, are you confident that that will solve the issue so it doesn't happen again?
It'll solve the issues this time. You've got to remember, this is a working canal. There'll always be mishaps.
Well, it's this lock behind me which is the source of all these troubles. Now, as you can see, work has started here. This is a fabric dam which has been installed by engineers this morning and will allow them to assess the damage and what repairs are needed. Now, thankfully, the water level has risen here thanks to some temporary fixes, but it was this lock that was left open and caused the water to drain away for around a mile down this canal, leaving more than 20 boats stranded. The Canal and River Trust runs the waterway and says the problem was a leaky gate which had been sealed but then forced open.
It's frustrating for us as much as it is for the boaters. We want the water levels to stay right, but we're working with locks that are 250 years old, and we're just trying to keep the water in the right place.
Engineers are hoping to start a full repair on Monday, but for those living here who've spent days living on an angle, they hope that the fix will hold. Vicky Smith, ITV News, Hebden Bridge.
And if it's been a little bit too warm for you and perhaps uncomfortable for sleeping by night, there's some better news ahead. A change to come weather-wise. All the details are coming up.
Before that, a book of condolence in memory of a young mum and her daughter who died in a house fire in Huddersfield earlier this week has been set up at a local church. The woman named locally as Danielle Parkinson died along with an 8-year-old girl following the blaze, which broke out in the early hours of Wednesday morning. A 10-year-old girl is still fighting for her life in hospital. The book is now open for those who wish to pay their respects at Huddersfield Parish Church.
In moments and in situations like this, we would always want to open our doors so that people have a safe space to come and pray, or just simply to come and be quiet, and somewhere to articulate their thoughts of grief and loss. When we heard the news, we wanted to do something so that people would have somewhere to collectively come.
It's been revealed that a wildfire on Meltham Moor above Huddersfield this week was most likely started by a disposable barbecue. Around 50 firefighters battled the flames at the height of the blaze, which burned large swathes of moorland for 3 days this week. Now, members of the public are being asked once again not to take barbecues onto moorland to prevent future fires.
The Newark MP Robert Jendrick has launched his bid to be the next Conservative Party leader. The former Housing Secretary joins 5 other MPs hoping to lead the Tories after Rishi Sunak's resignation. A vote for the final 4 contenders will be held in September, with the new leader being announced in November after a ballot of party members.
If a member in this room put on a blue rosette under my leadership, they would know what it stood for, and they would have pride in wearing it. And when someone opened a door to them, they would also know what it stood for. That's the change that we're going to bring.
The push to get more electric cars on the road has thrown up challenges like the need for public charging points. Well, now industry experts have identified another issue. There aren't enough people with the skills to maintain the vehicles.
And unless things change, there'll be a shortfall of engineers by 2030. James Webster has been finding out what they're doing to address the problem.
We're going to take a quick look inside, but we can identify it's a lithium-ion battery.
Training a new generation of technicians to work on a new generation of electric vehicles.
The battery lithium packs operate on a certain threshold. They don't like to be too cold, they don't like to be too hot.
These EVs have more electronics inside them than ever before, which those who aspire to work on them need to learn all about.
Going to this college really helped me get a deep level of understanding, and the more I learnt about it, the more I developed a passion for it.
In Yorkshire and northern Lincolnshire, just 5% of vehicle technicians are trained to industry standards to work on EVs. Across the country, 113,000 technicians will be needed by 2030, but not enough are being trained, which means there'll be an estimated shortage of 4,000 by the end of the decade, a shortage that's expected to grow to 20,000 5 years later. In this specially built garage, the trainees are learning very specific skills.
The technologies have advanced over the last 10 years or so. The skill sets that we need for electronics, electrical testing, and obviously working in around the high voltage system is much different to it was 10 years ago when we're working with mechanical aspects, which is, you know, in the greatest respect is easier.
The motoring retailer Halfords, which fits thousands of items in customers' vehicles every year, is also using this centre to retrain its staff.
We see a lot more coming in recently than we have done. I've been in the trade for 18 years. Once you understand the systems and how to make them safe, they're not as bad. They're a lot cleaner to work on, and there's a lot more technology involved.
A lot of youngsters are into technology. They like using their laptops, they like coding, they like diagnostics, and when they realise what's involved and they can get involved in it, code these vehicles, use laptops, it opens it up to lots and lots more people.
Hi, my name is Dhruv Patel. I'm one of the data science apprentices here at Toyota.
But the industry also needs to attract more talent, which is why they've started the More to Motor campaign and why they're looking also for government support.
Now we're welcoming in a brand new government. It's a very exciting time to make changes, to make sure we have a greener and more sustainable future that provides private transport solutions that are affordable to motorists. We represent over 110,000 people of the industry, and we will be taking their voice to the government and making sure that their views are heard.
With exam results due later this month, the industry hopes more young people with an interest in technology will now consider the motor industry for their future career. James Webster, ITV News.
Well, now to the Olympic Games in Paris and more medals for our region today.
Yes, and another glorious gold, courtesy of Sheffield's trampoline star Bryony Page. Well, Chris is with us now. And Chris, you were watching. What did you make of it all?
Oh, it was fantastic, wasn't it, Ian? I've got to say, it couldn't happen to a nicer person as well. We've followed Bryony's career here on Calendar for almost a decade now, and there isn't a more deserving winner of a gold medal.
I forgot I wasn't the last competitor. So in that moment, I knew that I'd won an Olympic medal. And at least I knew what it was going to feel like. So, yeah, I just couldn't believe it. And
the stuff of dreams there. Well, Arif Ahmed is live for us at Graves Sports Centre in Sheffield this evening, where Bryony trained. And Arif, they must be incredibly proud of her there too.
Oh, absolutely, Chris. This is where Bryony spent 8 years of her career. Just like these kids you can see behind me, learning, practicing and mastering her routines. It led to a bronze and a silver at Rio and Tokyo. But today, of course, she went that one step further with that clean sweep and win that gold at Paris. One man that knows her very well is Tommy. Tommy, great to see you this evening. You must be so proud of her.
Yeah, absolutely, really proud of her. I think she's an example of setting goals and getting to them, and
yeah, I think everyone's just really proud of her. She's just done so well, and yeah, we can't say much more. Yeah.
And she's world champion, we know that, and now she's Olympic champion. This is the one she really wanted, isn't it? That get her hands on that gold medal.
Absolutely. I think it was maybe a collection that she wanted all three of them, you know, bronze, silver, and then this is the one that she was missing. So I think it's just, she's got it. She did all the hard work. She's really put the effort in.
And what does it mean to the trampolining scene here in Sheffield? We know it's a small community, but it means so much to them as well, won't it?
Yeah, I mean, not even just Sheffield, but everywhere. I think trampolining as a sport is quite a minority, but it's just really inspiring that we have people that are achieving the best results they can. And I think Brian has just set that example and just really, shone through. And it's going to have a massive impact. People are just going to look up and see that that's something that they could achieve, maybe. So.
And what about these kids here? Those were quite impressive flips and tricks they're doing here. Is the next Bryony here?
Absolutely, yeah. You never know where that next star is. And I think Bryony would say that too as well. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Tommy, thank you very much for joining this evening. Well, it's clear here at Graves Trampoline that everyone here is jumping for joy.
You certainly are, Arif. I'm surprised you didn't give it a go yourself, maybe a little bit later when you've come off air, eh? Arif Ahmed live in Sheffield for us. This evening, I've got to tell you guys that Bryony gave an interview earlier. She said that it was her ambition one day to join the circus. Can you believe it?
Really?
Cirque du Soleil, she said. She mentioned it, and I think they'd be lucky to have her, wouldn't they? Us sports reporters do work hard. Clubs up and down the region are fine-tuning ahead of the new season. There's a raft of friendly matches this weekend, and one of those is at Hillsborough, where thousands will honour the career of Sheffield Wednesday stalwart Liam Palmer. He joined the club at just 7 years old, and 25 years later, he's still there. I've been to see him.
25 years from being a kid and leaving your kind of legacy. Hopefully I'll be remembered for that moment for a long time to come in the future, because it was a real special moment.
Liam Palmer was 7 years old when he first signed for his boyhood club. Little did he know then that 25 years later, that lad from Worksop would be one of the club's all-time greats. And tomorrow, thousands will show their appreciation in a testimonial match at Hillsborough.
Never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd get a testimonial from obviously a kid at 7, 8 years old, started training, and it's going to be a real proud moment, definitely for me.
If you weren't out there, would you be in the stands?
Yeah, 1,000,000%. From being in the academy and 4 or 5 of us and come with our parents, and we'd sit over in the north stand and be singing, dancing about with our kits on, and my kids are very much the same. They love it. My eldest is 10 now. He's asked to be a ball boy this season. I've tried to warn him that it does get cold in the winter. You might not, touch the ball, but when my career's done, I'd definitely be here as a fan anyway. This job that I've loved for so many years at this wonderful club, it's an honour every time I pull the badge on. Something that makes me really proud. Something that I don't ever want to end. Obviously, it will eventually, but I'd like to think I've still got a lot of football in my legs. So let's keep pushing on and see where it takes us.
And you can see an extended interview with Liam Palmer where we talk about the greatest players he's played with, the best managers he's worked under, and his thoughts ahead of the new season on our streaming service, ITVX. Not many footballers get a testimonial these days, for staying at a club so long. Liam Palmer, a proper club man.
And he seems like a really nice guy as well.
Really nice bloke, fully deserving of everything coming to him.
Chris, thanks very much indeed.
You're
You'll go get yourself a well-deserved weekend rest before the season starts again.
Thanks.
Needs to charge his batteries, that's what he needs to do, doesn't he?
Thanks, Chris. Well, finally from us, for a quarter of a century, a flower garden near York has been thrilling visitors with more than 10,000 varieties of flowers, shrubs and trees.
What started out as a plot of arable land to be worked on has grown and grown over the years due to the passion of its owners, and it now attracts visitors from all over the world.
Well, our Adam Fowler has been finding out how it's marking its 25th anniversary. Adam, it looks beautiful there in the sunshine.
What's that?
It certainly does, Sally, and look at this, we've found a little shrew just here. Can you see it? A beautiful little fella. Hello. Anyway, listen, never mind that. It's marvellous here. There's all sorts of things on display. We've got Anthemis, Sedum, Achillea. I've learnt all sorts of big Latin words this afternoon, and that's because there's 25 acres of fountains, lakes and lawns here, and it's all thanks to Colin Parker here and the wife. I was told to make sure we mentioned her too.
Absolutely.
Colin, how did all this get started?
25 years ago, this was a field of potatoes. We spent the first 7, 8 years putting in trees, hedging, just to give some sort of shelter and to give a structure to the garden. And then we started putting in different features. So like this is the raised beds, but then various other features that you mentioned there, which are basically a lot of perennials. So they've been slotted into that structure that we did with the trees and the hedging.
And what better way to see it than with some beautiful drone shots that Colin took earlier as well that we can show you. It must take a lot of work sorting out all these gardens. How many gardens have you got here?
We've got the equivalent of 2 full-time gardeners.
Incredible, 2?
2, but the trick is don't let anything get on top of you. Just keep going round and round in circles. And, you know, I try to get round each border at least once a week to keep them looking at their best.
And it's taken you 25 years to build it up as successfully as you have. What are you doing to celebrate that anniversary?
This year we've had a couple of plays in the park. This Sunday we've got Treasure Island for the kids. We got various workshops. I'm doing a series of guided walks around the gardens. So these are all things that we haven't done before. So it is for this a celebration for this year, for the 25 years.
And you attract around 15,000 visitors, and they come from all over the world, don't they?
Yes, we've had groups from this year. We've had groups from America, Germany, Holland, Sweden, Ireland, France. So yes, and of course plenty of British people as well.
Yeah, and a few marriage proposals I hear as well.
I believe so, but I'm not going to make any comments on that.
Well, I don't blame them for coming all over the world to see this fantastic garden. What an achievement it's been for you over the last quarter of a century, and what better way to appreciate it than in weather like this.
Quite right. Thanks very much, Adam. Looking good there. Very nice. And don't mention the marriage proposals.
No, he was very clear about that, wasn't he? Was Colin? Yeah. Some good advice, though, from Colin there. Don't let things get on top of you. Just keep going round in circles.
I do that every week, every day at work.
I think he was just talking about gardens rather than life in general.
Sorry, right.
But,
yes,
yeah.
I see.
So many fabulous places across our region to go and see. I thought I'd seen most of them, but Breeze and Ease is one I've not yet paid a visit to. But
I look forward to having a look at that myself, actually. Yeah. Now then, if you are going to go up in the garden this weekend, you'll want to know what the weather's going to be like. So the person to tell us, of course, Joe Blythe.
Good visibility on the horizon. TIRI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Thank you. A very good evening to you. If this very warm weather isn't to your taste, some better news this weekend and beyond. Freshening up across the UK and becoming slightly more unsettled with some showery rain at times. Plenty of bright, fine, dry weather for northern England on Saturday and Sunday. Into next week, increasingly unsettled. But for the here and now, the very warm air, as we can see on the temperature contour sequence, gradually being eroded for a time as fronts are allowed to move in from the west. Fresher air can push in across the country and temperatures will return to a seasonal average from tomorrow. In the meantime, this evening, the first band of rain begins to move in as we approach midnight, after which becoming fragmented, dying away, a dry start to Saturday for most of us, but perhaps some low cloud, mistiness and a few pockets of fog here and there. Winds really easing down over the next few hours, very light to start the day, and the air is still warm tonight. 16 or 17 Celsius for many towns, but after tonight it will become a little cooler overnight from tomorrow onwards. The Sun Times, it's up at 5:25, setting just before 9 o'clock tomorrow. Saturday could get off on a rather misty, murky note in places, but quickly skies will brighten. There's scope for perhaps a few showers, chiefly across South Yorkshire and Lincolnshire tomorrow afternoon. But for North and West Yorkshire, a dry day, fine, lots of sunshine around, cloud bubbling up at times through the afternoon. And temperatures are noticeably fresher, 21 or 22 Celsius at best, with very light winds. More cloud for all of us during Sunday, but largely dry. Briefly a little warmer on Monday, but becoming unsettled and fresher next week. Bye-bye.
TIRI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Oh, yes. Thanks very much indeed to Joe Blythe for the weekend forecast. And thanks very much, by the way, to Sally for being here all week.
Well, thank you. I've enjoyed myself very much.
Have you?
I have. Will you have me back?
We might do. Yeah, I'm sure we will.
I look forward to that. Thanks very much indeed for watching. I will be back at 10:30 with the late news. Mary Nightingale is next. But from the two of us, for now...
Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.
Good night.